my favorite. So I lived in Washington D.C. for 3 years. I was actually working with William Henry during that time, and I was going through and I was doing a whole bunch of just interpretation of the esoteric symbology within Washington D.C. One of my favorite symbolic features, well, I say favorite because it's very pronounced, is the Capitol building there on Capitoline Hill in Washington D.C. that's shaped in the form of the owl. And what's interesting is it's shaped in the form of the owl, and at the center is the spire of the Capitol building. And at the top, you have Libertas, also in kind of, if you translate this out, in Greek mythology, is Persephone, who went to the underworld and dragged man's soul down inside. And I just found this like one of the most highly powerful symbolic representations of the U.S. federal government, because the owl, we can look at this as representing Minerva, we can look at it representing Athena, born out of the third eye of Zeus, with all the knowledge and power of the gods, hid the knowledge in the darkness with the owl, and now this owl has Libertas at the top of it, which is representing being drawn down into the underworld, where it really kind of is this epic representation of the female power plus the hiding of the knowledge that the female power does from humanity's eyes.
Yeah, yeah, and you'll see that symbol on many houses of education, on schools, big ones, like on the portals. You'll find it at the center of the Pentagon, the little garden in the Pentagon. You find it as the Bohemian Grove, right? Remember that? You know, they have the owl as their symbol, and it is a goddess symbol all the way right through. And the whole idea is that that was one of the symbols of the sacred prostitutes that used to meet on the hills, and because the owl sees at night. Well, really what that was is they'd have these wee owl symbols, or even a big one, just like you see at the Bohemian Grove, and a river, and a mound, a hill. That's the most important. And then they put the lights, the torches, while they had these orgiastic sex acts. You know, this is part of goddess culture. And every king and every lord and every mayor and every priest was involved. Now, it's not to say that there wasn't the opposite of that. What people have to understand about what we know as Judaism was a homosexual cult. And then Jews have described the interior of the Temple of Solomon right into the Holies of Holies. It's all Kama Sutra symbolism, and all around the outside the Holy of Holies in the Temple of Solomon was nothing but cubicles with these curtains on it, where the what's called the Kedishah, that's the male prostitutes. You could just walk in as any guy and have sexual liaisons, and that was going on day and night at the Temple of Solomon. And some would sit on the steps. Religion and sex go together. But the females had their side, the cult of Asherah, the cult of Anat, etc., right, which later became Venus, through Aphrodite. They've done a beautiful job, right? But that was a sex cult. And one can get into that story too. But that's what a queen was. You weren't a queen from a political liaison. You were a queen, like the ancient Helena, right, and even the mother of Constantine, whatever. These were people who were initiates, and they were also initiators. So the male symbolism, from the throne that he sat on to other symbolism, which is still used today, it was like say, Lady of the Lake, for instance, to give an example, giving the sword unto Arthur. The three goddesses giving the wings and the armor to whoever, Perseus, and on and the three Grail maidens that escort Arthur to Avalon, right? What is all this? This whole background, people they just cognitively think that that's some sort of artistry and forget about it. No, you've got to switch it round to make the presence of these females dominant, and then only then, will you start to get a bit bigger picture on how these people control. And it's a hell of a story because there's many threads. But you're talking about the layout of these cities. That's one way into this, because entirely the symbolism of the laying. In fact, in ancient Egypt, no stone was ever laid. You keep seeing the ceremony of the foundation stone being laid. Never was that done without goddess symbolism and a special alignments to the constellations that were sacred to Isis or Hathor or Seshet or whomever. One can get into it, right? But this was key. And then your Persephone symbol is over a dome. The very dome symbolism, the very mound symbolism, Vatican City, all right, built on a hill that was to Aphrodite. And so